Breaking news this Christmas morning from Nashville. An explosion that has rocked downtown Nashville sent heavy black smoke and flames into the sky. Emergency crews right now are on the scene. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. Merry Christmas to you and yours. I'm Leland Vittert. Sandra Smith has the holiday off. We are learning that police in Nashville reportedly believe this explosion was an intentional act. Charles Watson is in our Southeast newsroom with the latest on this. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Leland. Metro Police say this is connected to a vehicle that exploded at 2nd Avenue and Commerce in downtown Nashville. Multiple reports right now say that a parked RV was in the middle of a road and exploded around 6:30 this morning, sending heavy black smoke into downtown Nashville. Police, fire, and federal authorities are on the scene investigating right now. We're told that they're being very cautious around this explosion site. Videos posted to social media show a very chaotic scene moments after the explosion. In one video, you can see what appears to be a vehicle on fire near buildings that appear to have been badly damaged from the explosion. An individual we spoke to this morning with the Metro Nashville Police Department couldn't confirm many details with us, but said he could feel the explosion rattle the ground as he made his way into work this morning. Right now, we know from Metro Nashville Police that at least 3 people have been transported to area hospitals. None of those injuries appear to be serious at this hour. But again, Leland, as you mentioned, Metro Nashville Police believe that this explosion may have been intentional. Police, local fire, and federal authorities are on the ground investigating as we speak. And of course, we'll keep following this story as more details develop. Leland?
Yeah, and as we watch this video, you can see the plume of smoke coming up from downtown Nashville. You mentioned 2nd and Commerce Street. There's a number of bars. It looks like sort of a pedestrian walk right down by the river. The Melting Pot Bar, Brazilian Steakhouse, beer store, Bell South cell phone store, pizza joint, the Coyote Ugly, the Blues Club. You would hope on a morning, on a Christmas morning like this, thankfully there wouldn't be anybody out and about. As you noted, there were some injuries. Thankfully, none of them appear at the time to be life-threatening. Looking now at the AP wire, emergency crews are there, black smoke and flames coming out. The Metro Nashville Office of Emergency Management told Nashville television station WKRN that a parked recreational vehicle exploded and damaged the buildings. The station quoted officials as saying the explosion did not seem suspicious. So we get the RV point, and now we hear that this Christmas morning explosion appears to be an intentional act. Times like this, you end up with the FBI coming in, the ATF coming in. As Charles mentioned, you've got a number of federal authorities who will respond to this. And typically what you see is a situation where everything slows down dramatically once they figure out who is injured and getting those people out. You can see video. This is from Buck McCoy on Facebook, what appears to be right down by the explosion, which appears to have been very significant. And you can imagine if that street was packed with people going out last night, it would be a very different situation than what happened this morning, where Charles reports that there were only a couple of minor injuries. As things slow way down, then the investigation begins. The bomb squad comes in and clears any vehicle nearby to make sure that there's not additional danger there. Then they go in and they assess the buildings to make sure that they are not structurally damaged. And then the investigation begins of who owned the RV and who's behind this. I'm going to just check with our crews. This is a live picture from Nashville, correct? No live. This is not live. This is tape right now, so it's looking down the street where we see the ambulances and fire trucks. Charles, I'm interested, you've been trying to talk to folks. Have you gotten any information on who the people who were injured are? Were these people who were living down in that area or just walking around on Christmas morning?
Well, Leland, we haven't gotten a lot of information about this incident in general, so not a lot of details about the victims who were transported to the hospital, why they were in the area this morning, whether they were out on a run or walk or going into work. But obviously there were folks out this morning. As you mentioned, there are videos on social media moments after this major explosion where you can see vehicles on fire and the damage done to the surrounding buildings. So there were people out in the street. Luckily, there weren't more people injured this morning from, when you consider all the videos that we see on social media.
We understand that this happened at 6:30 a.m. That comes from the Nashville Police Department's Twitter account. Buck McCoy, whose video we referenced on the ground, which sort of gives us the best perspective of the cars burning and others, he lives in the area. He posted the videos on Facebook, water pouring down from the ceiling of his home. You can hear, if I am quiet for a second, we'll put the gnats up. And it appears as though you're hearing in that video the screams of people possibly who were injured, because we know there were a number of them. All of my windows, every single one of them got blown into the next room. If I had been standing there, it would have been horrible. This is Buck McCoy. It felt like a bomb. It was that big. And Buck talked to the Associated Press here. There were about 4 cars on fire. I don't know if it was hot, so they just caught on fire, and the trees were blown apart. We're going to let Charles go work some of his sources and check in with the federal authorities who come in. And with that, we'll bring in Ted Williams, former D.C. homicide detective, also former federal agent. You hear the Nashville police now saying this appears to be an intentional act, no critical injuries. But that word intentional act changes everything, doesn't it, Ted?
Leland, you're absolutely correct. It changes everything. Now we know that this is perhaps a criminal investigation. The first thing they are trying to do, Leland, is to make sure that they clear the scene, that they make sure that there are no explosive devices or other explosive devices there, and they're going to have to walk and work a little backwards here. But this is definitely a very catastrophic event that is taking place here this morning in Nashville.
Obviously, the facts of these are extremely slim, but we do know 6:30 in the morning is when this large explosion occurred. They think it came from an RV, which was the initial reports. And then as we look at that video from ground level, the destruction is pretty significant. If it is an intentional act, what do you make of the fact that it happened? Oh, now we have live pictures. This is a helicopter shot from one of our affiliates in Nashville, and you can see the burned out cars. Ted, I don't know if you're near your TV, but if they zoom back in, you'll see this looks like a pedestrian area with bars and restaurants downtown. If this had happened at 6:30 at night and restaurants in Tennessee are open and serving, we'd have a very different situation than we have at 6:30 in the morning.
Lillian, you're absolutely right. If this would have happened at any other time other than the period of time here early in the morning, we could very well be looking at something more catastrophic. It is no doubt about it. It's my understanding that there have been injuries, but there's not been any deaths reported at this immediate time. But you have the bomb squad. You have federal agencies as well as the local agencies that are on that scene. And it is now, I'm sure, considered a crime scene. And as a result of that, you will find perhaps AT&F, alcohol, tax, and tobacco, that will take over that scene there, because this certainly, as they've said and reported, is intentional. So that is deeply concerning. And what is more concerning, Leland, is there are other areas that are going to be affected in this city of Nashville, and I'm sure that all throughout the country now, law enforcement are on alert for other explosives such as is taking place here in Nashville.
Yeah, it looks so as we were looking at these are live pictures from Sky 5, News Channel 5 in North Carolina, over what is now called an intentional act of a large explosion in downtown Nashville. The area you're looking at right now is a very popular bar and restaurant area in downtown Nashville. The explosion happened at 6:30 a.m. That would be 6:30 a.m. Central Time, so about 2.5 hours ago. And you can see that it destroyed much of the ground level of an entire city block where there's a number of bars and restaurants, cafes. Ted Williams, former D.C. homicide detective and former federal agent, is with us. You make a good point, Ted. You know, we've seen things happen on Christmas Day before. I'm thinking about the shoe bomber and other events like this. How difficult is it to get things going from a federal response at 7 a.m. on a Christmas morning versus, 8 or 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday morning?
Well, it is somewhat difficult because it is a holiday, and normally on holidays, as you know, in this country, we are pretty relaxed. But I must tell you that I am sure that law enforcement plan for these kinds of unfortunate activities.
Right.
One of the things that they're going to be looking at strongly, Leland, in this area will be videotape, because the videotapes in this area and most of the area in Nashville, and I am familiar with this area, there are video cameras throughout the area. And so we will at some stage see the actual explosion itself, I believe, and also there may very well be other clues of who bought that supposedly
right. You know, Ted, we're looking
area.
here at we're looking at different pictures.
So
we're looking at different pictures now, Ted.
From is to make sure that everyone is safe in that area, and then after that, they will start processing it, Leland, as a crime scene.
Right. WTVF is our Nashville affiliate, and this is shots from what is called their air. So we're seeing what they are seeing in real time. This appears to perhaps be a view down one of the streets towards where this explosion took place. It'd be hard to imagine a couple of hours later that there's still cars on fire there. And if you look at where the fires are, there's a pretty big distance between them. And the force of an explosion to set these cars on fire and to clear out this entire block of this business district has to be pretty significant. Ted Williams with us. And Ted, as we think about the issue you brought up, which is the closed circuit television cameras that are going to be all over an area like this, how long does it take from the time you start getting the ATF and the FBI on scene to when they're going to be able to get those videos and those tapes?
Well, they're going to move immediately. You must realize, in light of the fact, Leland, that there was this massive explosion in that area, that some of those cameras could very well also have been damaged. And so they're going to have to search that area, I'm sure, for some of those cameras. Now, what happens in most of these metropolitan cities are that while you do have the cameras there on the scene, there is a central area where most
Hey, Ted,
of
I'm going to just stop you for one second.
Where the video comes in. So there will be a video feed of what is taking place down in downtown Nashville there, Leland, I believe.
I'm going to stop you for 1 second, and this is news from a local reporter at News Channel 5, and that's where we were getting our helicopter pictures as well. Chris Davis reporting from Metro Nashville PD spokesman Don Aaron, quote, before 6 o'clock this morning, police received a report of a suspicious vehicle on 2nd Avenue North outside the AT&T building. An officer responded and upon investigating had reason to call the hazardous device units. Based on the timing there, it would have been before 6 o'clock in the morning the call came in. By 6:30, you had an explosion, and something about the vehicle had whoever showed up call out the hazardous device units, which I think is a more technical term for the bomb squad, correct?
Yes, it is. And but that is good information that you feeding our public right now, our viewers, because that means that they had some time to make sure that the area was clear. And so I'm sure that that officer and the fact that it was called in as a suspicious vehicle, that they were able to clear that area and to make sure that, and that perhaps saved a lot of lives, Leland.
Yeah, it certainly likely did that phone call came in and that people paid attention even at 6 o'clock on Christmas morning. Ted, we appreciate you joining us here, and obviously we're going to be back to you throughout the day and counting on you for your expertise. Right now it is about 9:15 in the morning on Christmas morning in Nashville. A large explosion, which police now call an intentional act. It appears as though there was an explosion in a vehicle of some type. Live pictures from overhead, and you can see it destroyed what looks to be an entire block of downtown Nashville, part of the very popular downtown bar and restaurant district there. We're checking with some of our federal sources as well. We understand the FBI and the ATF are en route there, and the bomb squad now is trying to clear things.